Have you ever felt yourself clinging to something with everything you have, only to find that the tighter you hold, the further it slips away? We try to grip onto people, jobs, dreams, and even memories until we wake up exhausted, wondering why we feel so drained. We pour our energy into keeping things from changing, replaying conversations, and analyzing every detail at night, until the exhaustion becomes so familiar we forget what it feels like to breathe easily. Buddhism teaches a counterintuitive truth. You don't block your destiny by failing, you block it by holding on. This sounds backwards because we are taught that persistence means never letting go. But what if your tightened fist is the very barrier between you and everything you truly want? Everything meant for you can only arrive when your hands finally open. Letting go is not surrendering to defeat. It is stopping the internal resistance that suffocates life itself. Now, think about the physiology of resistance. When you hold your breath, your body tenses. When you grip something too tightly, your hand cramps. When you clench your jaw, pain spreads through your neck and skull. The same thing happens in your mind and heart. When you grip your thoughts, they multiply. When you tighten around your emotions, they intensify. Clinging creates contraction, and life cannot flow through contraction. Peace and clarity cannot enter through resistance or control. Every moment spent forcing or chasing is a moment you block the natural movement of life. Not because you are doing something wrong, but because your hands are too full for anything new to enter. While you are busy holding on, life is trying to bring you something better and more aligned, but it cannot reach you because there is no space. Buddhism doesn't say attachment is wrong. It says attachment is suffering because attachment is not love. It is fear. When you love something, you hold it gently and allow its space to exist as it is. But when you are attached, you grip, monitor, and worry because you are terrified of abandonment, emptiness, and uncertainty. What we call love or care is often fear wearing a softer name, the fear that if you loosen your grip, you will be left behind or everything will fall apart. Your mind becomes a surveillance system, overthinking every word and gesture. You disguise concern as care, but your nervous system is actually screaming to hold tighter or lose everything. Inside that grip, your thoughts loop, your breathing becomes shallow, and you can never enjoy what you have because you are too afraid of losing it. An example is you love someone, so you check their phone, not because you don't trust them, but because you need to feel safe. You care about your job, so you work until you are burned out. You want your child to succeed, so you control every choice they make. You call it love, but love doesn't exhaust, fear does. Buddhism distinguishes between healthy desire and desperate attachment. Healthy desire says, I move toward this with clarity and intention, but I don't collapse if things unfold differently. Attachment says, I am incomplete without this. I need this to prove that I matter. When you chase something, you send an energetic message of lack into the world. That energy of I am not whole without you creates a repelling force that pushes away the very thing you are reaching for. What is chased feels pressured, but what is respected feels safe to approach. An example of real life is you want a relationship, so you text constantly, overanalyze every response, and mold yourself into what you think they want. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny and make yourself available at all hours. The more you chase, the more they withdraw, not because you are unworthy, but because your energy is suffocating. You've made their approval the condition for your peace, and people can feel when they've been made responsible for someone else's happiness. The mind creates a deep illusion. If I hold tighter, I'll be safe. It believes that if you plan perfectly and manage every detail, you can prevent pain and protect yourself from disappointment. But you control actions, not outcomes. You control effort, not timing. You control intention, not response. You can do everything right and still not get the result you want. This isn't cruel. It is simply the reality of a shifting world filled with variables you cannot see. Trying to control what was never yours to control results in mental exhaustion, emotional rigidity, and a spiritual heaviness from carrying weight you were never real life. Example: you plan a perfect day, but traffic delays you and the weather changes. You can spend the day resisting reality and replaying what should have happened. Or you can release the script and meet life as it is. By practicing flexibility, you transform suffering into acceptance and may even discover a gift you never could have planned for. Holding on to what hurts you is not loyalty, it is self-abandonment. Buddhism teaches compassion, but it must include yourself. Real self-love sometimes looks like walking away, ending cycles that no longer serve you, and choosing dignity over familiarity. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. When you accept less than you deserve, you signal that your peace is negotiable, which erodes your self-respect over time. A powerful shift happens when you stop proving your worth and start protecting your peace. This is a life example. You stay in a friendship that drains you for years because you don't want to be the bad person who walks away. But every interaction leaves you exhausted. Letting go isn't cruelty. It's reclaiming your energy for relationships that are mutual. Here is a real-life example. You want a relationship, so you text constantly, overanalyze every response, and mold yourself into what you think they want. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny and make yourself available at all hours. The more you chase, the more they withdraw, not because you are unworthy, but because your energy is suffocating. You've made their approval the condition for your peace, and people can feel when they've been made responsible for someone else's happiness. Many carry the silent suffering of the almost loved, almost chosen, almost there. Attachment to ungrounded hope keeps you waiting in the painful space of maybe and someday. But almost is not neutral. It drains your life force and prevents you from meeting what actually wants to meet you. Letting go of almost means you stop bargaining with reality and create space for true alignment. Another real-life example. You've been almost in a relationship with someone for months. They text you late at night but won't commit during the day. You tell yourself it's progress, but your heart knows you are holding on to breadcrumbs while starving for real connection. Imagine your heart as a room. If it is crowded with old roles, expired relationships, and outdated identities, there is no room for anything new to enter. A cluttered mind cannot receive clarity. Letting go is not erasing the past. It is releasing the emotional weight so that space can exist again. Attachment distorts reality like dust on a mirror. You ignore red flags because you are attached to the outcome, not to clarity. But when you let go, the dust clears and your intuition is restored. Another real-life example. You finally let go of a relationship. and within weeks you wonder how you stayed so long. The red flags are now glaring. You didn't become smarter, you just stopped looking through the fog of attachment. To truly let go, we must understand that it is not a single dramatic event. It is a gentle, daily practice, a consistent return to trust and a softening of hands that have been clenched for far too long. Day 1 is the power of noticing. The journey begins by simply identifying what you are holding. Most of our suffering is invisible because it has become our normal. The action is to identify one specific thought, belief, relationship, or plan you are currently gripping. The ritual is to name it out loud or write it down to bring it fully into your awareness. The goal: don't try to change it yet, simply breathe and acknowledge its presence. Day 2 is fear versus clarity. On the second day, you examine the energy behind your movements. Chasing is often action fueled by the fear of being not enough. The question: ask yourself, am I moving toward this because it aligns with my soul, or because I am afraid of what will happen if I don't? The insight: real action comes from a place of wholeness, while chasing comes from a place of panic. The shift: let clarity be your guide rather than the urgent, noisy voice of fear. Day 3 is about releasing the shoulds. We often carry heavy burdens that were never ours to begin with, expectations placed on us by society, family, or our own outdated ego. The action: pick one should, a way you think you should look, a career milestone you should have reached, or a way you should feel. The release: explicitly give yourself permission to let it go. The feeling: notice the immediate lightness that arrives when you stop carrying someone else's script. Day 4 is shedding old identities. Day 4 is about making room for the person you are becoming. We often cling to old versions of ourselves because the unknown feels dangerous. The action: identify an expired identity. Perhaps you were the one who always fixes things, or the one who never fails. The transformation: acknowledge that this role served you once, but it is now crowding your heart. The goal: release the old story to allow a new, truer narrative to emerge. Day 5 is the physicality of release. Because the mind and body are one, mental clinging creates physical tension in your jaw, shoulders, and hands. The action: several times today, literally open your palms toward the sky. The mantra: as you open your hands, say silently, I release control. The insight: this physical gesture sends a signal to your nervous system that it is finally safe to relax and recover. Day 6, weathering the internal storm. Instead of fighting your feelings, you learn to observe them as a witness. You are the sky. Your thoughts and emotions are merely the weather. The action: watch your thoughts arise and pass without trying to grab them or believe them. The practice: when a difficult emotion arrives, don't resist it. Let it stay for as long as it needs to, knowing it will eventually move through you. The goal: to realize that you are the awareness holding the emotion, not the emotion itself. Day 7, resting in spaciousness. On the final day, you sit in the space you have spent the week creating. The action: sit in total stillness for 10 minutes. The experience: feel the silence that exists beneath your chatter and the peace that lives beneath your panic. The truth: in this stillness, you realize you are never empty or incomplete. You were always whole, just covered by the noise of your own clinging. As you conclude this week, Remember that you do not need to force doors open or convince anyone of your worth. When you are open, what is truly yours will find its way to you, not through your effort to control it, but through your willingness to receive it